3, 2, 1.
57-ish months ago, a man decided to attempt to entertain through the art of storytelling. He failed, yet still he persisted, and tonight we find ourselves at the centennial of Storytime with Ash. And without further ado, here's Ash.
What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. And even though I have a great guest on tonight, Eric Breen, who did a wonderful intro, I still managed to screw it up. Thank you, Eric, for being on tonight. This is the 100th episode. Can you believe I've done 100 of these? Skip is supposed to be here, and I think he got caught in traffic or something. He'll probably be late, but that's the way of Skip. So he's fashionably late. This is when you're a star, like you can't show up on time. But we'll wait for him, I'm sure. In the meantime, we got Eric here. How you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm good, and if I'm not mistaken, Skip, are you there?
Oh, Skip's in the chat. I don't know why he's not in the voice. There he is.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hey, Skip's here. We hear you now, buddy. Thanks for showing up.
My pleasure.
So anyways, Eric, Skip. Well, let's go over there, Eric. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you on this most momentous occasion?
I'm doing very good. I've had some little good things happen today. Those little blessings in life that sometimes something nice goes your way, and you're like, hey, puts a little skip in your step. Speaking of skips in your step, how you doing?
Stream.
It's got a skip in my stream. What's going on, Skip?
I just trip and fall and fumble into everybody's streams and life. And you know what? Sometimes I have to think to myself, is there any better way for it to happen? I'm feeling great, man. Obviously a huge honor and pleasure to be amongst two distinguished gentlemen, let alone on such a historical occasion. So really just thanks for having me on, and always good to see everybody in the chat.
All right. Well, yeah, I've been doing this. I don't remember what the first day and date was that I did this. I just know I've done 100 of them. I guess if you divide it by 3, since I do 3 a week, it's been 30 weeks approximately. So yeah, it's one of those things. You just blink and you're like, oh, here I am. I did the title as the 100th episode semi-spectacular because as much as I would love to make this a giant spectacle, it's really not. It's me reading comics, but I wanted to have you guys both on the stream. I'm glad you both did because Eric has been one of my longest time listeners, been a big influence on me. He's also been a big person to kind of bring me to discover Ed Brubaker. I bought the Captain America, couple of the Captain America runs because of him. And then, of course, Criminal has been something he's been pushing. You also pushed Criminal, and in fact, even donated a couple Criminal issues, which we'll be reading tonight as part of the 100th thing. I know you were questioning me before, like, hey, are you going to read those? And I was like, in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it for the 100th, but I didn't want to tell you, so it was a surprise. So thank you for those. I'm really looking forward to reading those tonight. That's going to be what's special to me, and that's what this stream's really is. It's all about me, folks. This is my hobby, but I love doing it because I get to meet people like you guys, people like those in chat, yeah. So I guess I'll do the regular thing that I'm known to do. Just address the chat right now, see who's here to heal him. It says he's last again, but he's first on my screen. Oh, might be one of those things. Oh, I re-edit. Every time I edit the title, it deletes the chat. So, I don't know who's actually first. Maybe Dragon Majesty was first. Who do you see as first, Eric?
To heal him first.
Does he say last again? Dang
yes. Dragon Majesty. Looks like they were going back and forth for a while. Melissa
I don't
takes
know.
the bronze.
I don't know who's first because I have it on two different screens right now, and it's showing me two different things. So congratulations if it's to heal him. He says he's last, but he's first on my screen. So congrats. Dragon's here. Let's see. Melissa's in the house, and LK is also joining us. Good to see you. Some familiar faces. Maranya has also made it. Thank you for showing up. Got Eric Breen, of course, in the chat. Lord says it's weird how he didn't get a notification. Well, I mean, you are trying to destroy me, so maybe that's the problem right there. Let's see. Who else says comics quirks with Jimmy? He says, "Hey." Always a mouthful, Jimmy. No, good to see you. Thanks for showing up. Who else is here? Dragon. Oh, I started Dragon Messy. There's like a lot of people named Dragon. No other dragon here tonight. Zach Richmond is one of the many Zachs. Scrolling down. I think that's all the regulars I see. If you're not a regular, please feel free to be one. If you're in the chat, but you're not actually chatting and you're lurking in the background, hello to you as well. So before I guess I talk about my day, Skip, you sound like you had a busy day. Anything going on in the world of comics? Maybe apparently Skip's busy day hasn't ended. Eric, what about you?
Well, so you go. Went to the shop yesterday, picked up a handful of DCs. I think we're going to be talking about those a little bit tonight. And today is just running errands.
Running errands. That's always sounds like fun. What DCs
Oh, yeah.
did you pick up?
Let's see. Batman, Dark Knight's Death Metal #6. 3 more entries into Endless Winter. I believe Aquaman, Justice League, and the Teen Titans special, if I'm remembering correctly. Nightwing. And of course, I can't remember the 7th one. And I picked up that Dynamite, their zombie apocalypse story, and read through them all. And I pretty much liked everything I read this week.
Cool. That Dynamite looked interesting to me. I was like, at first I was like, oh, look, someone's copying Deceased. But hey,
Well, yeah, they are. And yeah, they're, I think Fred Van Lent might be doing this as a way to, he's dropping topical references to COVID. A couple things that, kind of rubbed me slightly the wrong way, but it's an entertaining story, and that's all I can really ask.
Really, honestly, that's what comics mostly should be. This idea of trying to turn comics into, fine literature is really not the bar I think people should be reaching for. Let's just go back to fun.
Yeah, he takes a crack at the United States healthcare system, and he was using terms like super spreader. So I'm kind of guessing I know what side he's coming from. But if you can get past those, and it doesn't dominate the story. I mean, I kind of look at that the way a couple issues ago in Deceased Dead Planet, when Tom Taylor worked income inequality into the zombie apocalypse for an issue, and then got it out of his system and went on. So if hopefully that's what Fred did this month, and the last 2 will be free of any any of his editorializing.
Skip, you back?
Excuse me, I had myself muted.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely a busy day. Mostly good things. In the world of comics, of course, the shop that I normally go to on Wednesdays didn't have decorum. So I went to a shop that I don't normally go to, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise because I met a writer down there and someone who does all sorts of writing. We had fantastic discussions, so that was cool. Got the variant cover as well as the regular cover for Decorum #6. Stay tuned to hear our thoughts on that here in a few days.
Yeah.
As well as picked up Reckless, of course, by Ed Brubaker. And the I love the guy that owns the shop that I go to. It's in another city, but he just really knows me now. He and his son, they own the shop. They know me really well. So I didn't ask, but they had ordered me this noir book from Dark Horse, which I think we were discussing over on Comics Quirks channel. And it's just full of like noir stories from Azzarello, Brubaker, and Phillips are in there with their own like little tiny criminal story, bunch of anthology criminal noir stories, which are really, really cool. Or not just criminal stories, but noir stories,
Mm-hmm.
which are really, really cool. And I picked up Black Cat. Oh, what's it called? It's called, let me turn to it. It's actually called Noir.
Oh, I think I saw that.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, definitely. Breen, I think you will definitely
I
be
got
into
recommended a book.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the comic book store today and I got recommended a book. I totally flaked on what it is. Man. The one of the staff at the store that I go to, she's real nice and she hooked me up today too. And she's one of the ones that got me onto Firepower. And she's like, "Oh, it's this book and da 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 da." So I was like, "You know what? You recommend good stuff. I should check that out." You know, in my back of my mind, I'm thinking, because I asked her, I was like, "Did this book just come out?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, "Yeah, Skip and I are looking for a new indie book. Maybe this will be I put on the radar, you know." And then I just blocked out. My brain just was like, whoop 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 whoop. It's just tweeted out of the ear, it's gone. It's like, oh, what is? I don't even know what it's called. But sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, continue.
No, you're good, man. That was most of it right there, and then some family stuff. Went and played some. Took my kids outside because they've been. Well, yesterday we went to the comic shop, which is in that other city, and I rewarded them because they were handling, all their classes and whatnot really well. So we went to the comic shop. They ended up not picking books. They wanted to spend all of their little earned money in this tiny little Japanese mart that's right next to the comic shop in that city. So they got a bunch of like ramen and like frozen snacks and all this stuff that, they just wanted to treat themselves with that. So that was really cool. And then today took them out again. We just went to the park and threw some Frisbee around. So it's always a good time. I had a blast with my kids. They're my favorite people.
Very cool.
Well,
so
go ahead. What's up?
So Skip, yeah, I was just looking at Reckless here, and I was wondering if all of your corners are sharp and ding free like mine are.
No, you got me beat there, my man. Mine's are pretty beat, and I was a little sad about it. Actually, I have two different like hardcovers from Brubaker. Two of them are definitely shipping issues that got messed up, and the other one I let my roommate borrow it to read Bad Weekend, which we'll be covering tonight. And he must have had to write something, so he ended up using it as like a surface.
Oh,
I got all these dang imprints on the cover, so I got to get another copy of Bad Weekend because it just hurts my feelings when I rub my hands over the hardcover.
yeah.
I just feel all these indents in it.
So Ash, that make you feel any better?
A little bit. So, anyways, so today I had a little adventure. Not that big of a deal. I always make things that sound exciting more than they are. So I'm out and about doing work stuff, and pardon me while I pour myself a little something that I got for me. We'll discuss here in a second. And I realized I forgot to pay my car payment.
Oh,
yeah, that was bad. Now my bank gives me a 10-day grace period. I'm like, okay, cool. Except I was past the 10-day grace period. And the reason that I was so late is because I pay my car payments like 3 months at a time. So my last car payment I paid like in October. And I was like, yeah, I have to pay 3 months. So I didn't have to pay again until December, except I realized I'm like, it's like midway through December. My payment was due on the 6th. 10-day grace period 16th. Today's the 17th. Oops. So I'm like, oh crap. And I'm out and about. I'm on the road and I'm like, I need to get this done. And I'm sweating it. And it's like getting like 4 o'clock. And my bank is actually in Colorado. And so it's like an hour ahead. And I'm like, oh, they're going to close. I got to pay this. So I'm all sweating. I'm sitting in a parking lot trying to call in to make a payment. And I just happened to be like, because I was going to pay 3 months again. And I was like, well, I'm going to pay 3 months. I wonder what my payoff quote is. Because I knew I've been paying for a while. And I was like, if it's like $1,000 or less, I might just pay this off, and just get it done. I mean, it'll deplete, a chunk of my savings, but I won't have a car payment. That'll be. So I was like, hey, what's my payoff quote? And the lady responds, she's like, it's like $200. And I was like, what?
Nice.
It was basically a one single car payment. It was 5 cents off of my car payment. And so I was like, she's like, do you want to make that payment? And I was like, yes. I was like, holy cow. I was all excited. I was like, I can't believe I had no idea I was going to be making money. Most people, when they're paying off their car, they know, right? They know like, oh, this month will be my last. They're just counting the days, right? It's like Christmas. I had no idea. I still thought I had at least $1,000 left on it. So I was like, I had no idea today would be my last day paying my car. So it was. So I was like, hung up the phone and I was like, wow, I was sweating like being late and everything. And now I got my title. So then I just thought, well, I was like, well, shoot, I was about to pay $600. I got a little extra money in my pocket to budget for stuff. So I was like, I'll treat myself. So I drove down to, there's a comic book store near the area that I was, which is not really near my home, and it's not really a great comic book store, but it's kind of this little hole in the wall place that doesn't get a lot of traffic. And so you can sometimes find hard to find things. And one of the good things about this place is they do 30% off graphic novels, all graphic novels and trades. Everything is 30% off, even if it's brand new. So I was like, oh, reckless. I was like, I was going to get this online. I found a place that'll sell it online for really it was like 14 something. But
Holy
at this
crap.
Yeah, but at this place it was 18. So I was like, $4 extra. I get to support a local comic book store. I get to have it right now, because the place I'm ordering from, I don't know, it could take weeks. They have a big thing. It's like, COVID warning, we're shorthanded. I was like, I don't know when I'm going to get this thing. So I'm like, is it really worth the $4 to wait until January perhaps before I get it? So I was like, yeah, I'll be happy to support this guy, And I was also there. I was like, can I find Hawkman 25? He didn't have it. So I got that. I went to my other comic book store, and they hooked me up. Anyways, put a little picture on the screen. I had to get gas. So I was in a weird part of town here, and I just thought this was really funny. I don't normally see this. It's nothing really super bizarre, but it just struck me weird. Do you see the picture on the screen? I'm just wondering if anyone notices the oddity that is here. I was just basically, this is where I was standing, where I was pumping gas in my car, and without further ado, I'm not going to delay this forever. But basically, I'm at an Arco station getting gas, and right across the street, catty corner, is an Arco station. I'm just like,
yeah,
you get competing gas stations. You're the same. I normally see like other brands, like on every corner, but I've never seen before the same brand on the opposite corners. And at first I thought, I was like, well, maybe it's just like the same business, and they just, because of the traffic, they're like, hey, we'll just buy out both lots and sell gas on both corners, because sometimes it's just harder to get access on based the way the traffic goes and stuff.
Right.
But it's not, because the mini marts were different. Like this one was an Arco AM PM, across the street was Arco, and then like a Sunshine Market or something. So I was like, it can't be. Anyways, that's no big deal. I just thought it was really weird. Have either of you ever seen that?
No.
Can't say that I have.
All right, well, moving on. Now you have, Eric. Let's see.
I feel complete somehow.
So the other thing that I did was I was like, I'm going to treat myself. Sometime before COVID, I had bought myself a big bottle of Maker's Mark. That's kind of my daily, I don't want to say daily driver because I don't drink it daily, but it's the thing that I just, if I'm going to have a drink, and it lasted me for almost a year. And I was like, but it ran out, and I was like, those things are like $40-something to replace. And it's an expense. Like, I was telling Eric backstream and stuff. I was like, I can just drink iced tea for free almost. Like when you, when you buy tea in bulk, it just comes out to really small amounts per bag. And I was like, I'm going to treat myself and get some beer. So, one of my favorite beers of all time is a beer. It's by Anchor Brewing Company, which it's up north by you, Skip. I think they're a San Francisco company. They have a beer called Meyer Lemon Lager, and you cannot find it. The last time I saw it was in Colorado. I can never find it anywhere. It's one of the best beers I've ever had in my life. But then I was at the liquor store and I came across this, and it just struck me as kind of similar. And I was like, I'm take a shot at this. Not that you guys care, but if you're a beer drinker, maybe this will sound interesting. It reminded me of the same, so that's what it looks like. And then I decided to pick up some vodka because I'm kind of a vodka guy, but I haven't had liquor in a long time. Like I used to have like a stocked bar, but I just don't drink that much, and I don't like to expend money on it. So I've never had Tito's before. I've heard good things, and I've discovered that when I was really into vodka, I discovered like the best vodkas in the world. Actually, it's not like other liquors like whiskeys and stuff where you have to go get these super extreme, $100+ bottles. With vodka, some of the best bottles, some of the best distilled, whatever. Some of the best versions of it are like $25 bottles. I heard Tito's is good. Anyways, one of the things I really love is Bloody Marys, and I was just like craving it. And I don't have my favorite Bloody Mary mix. I wish I could find, but this sounded really good. I like a spicy, really spicy Bloody Mary, and you need vodka to do it. So I was like, hey, now I can do it. And then to replace my Makers, this is what I'm drinking right now. I just poured myself some. I was like, you know what? I'm going to splurge for the Makers 46. And damn, is it good. It was worth it. And then also I needed some tequila, and I just got some really good tequila from sitting for these dogs. But they bought me like this $100 bottle of tequila, and I'm like, I don't like to drink it because it's so expensive. I feel bad every time I drink it. So, but I do like a quality tequila, and I've never had Tres. Well, I'm sure I've had it. I've never bought a bottle of it before, and they didn't have Patron in normal size, and holy shit, Don Julio is one of my favorite vodka or tequilas. That they have shot through the roof. Like it was like $89 for a bottle of Don Julio. I was like, geez. So I decided to try this because it was pretty good price, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I know this is a good quality tequila. So I picked that up, and that was my treat yourself moment for not having to make a car payment. And now Eric was making
celebration.
Yeah, I thought I would have it, and I was like, it's my 100th stream, so I can have something on the stream. That's what I said. I'm sipping the 46 right now. Oh, it's very mellow. Holy crap!
Nice and smooth, huh?
If you are not a whiskey drinker, or if the thing that you don't like about whiskey is like the harshness of it, this is not hard. This is how I like whiskey. It's nice and mellow and smooth. And then I drink it on the rocks, so which cuts it a little bit more even. Anyways, moving along. Stan and Forky are excited, as you can see. I pose them in the middle. they're gonna party with me later. I also picked up some comics. So get a little bit of a haul video going on here. Picked up the new Venom, and I should have reshot this one. This one I had it angled wrong, so it didn't capture the light. And I was just pressed for time. I had to cook dinner and stuff. And anyway, I should have went back. This is a really good cover. Venom. I'm really enjoying Venom. It's one of the few Marvel titles that I say worth buying, and it's the only Marvel title that I picked up. The rest is all indies. Usagi Yojimbo. This is just a perennial favorite of mine. If you're gonna make new Usagi books, I'm gonna buy them. I think a holy grail for me in comics would be to own every Usagi Yojimbo comic. Like, that would be a grand collection if I could somehow manage that. Picked up the new Decorum. This is a book I'm having a lot of fun with, and I'm having even more fun doing the stream with Skip. Doing these things, whether it's doing the stream itself or being a guest or even watching someone else's stream, enhances the books for me. What about you, Skip? I mean, is it making it better for you, this book? Like, is it furthering your enjoyment that we get to do what we do?
Easy, my friend. Hands down. So often I read books and I'm just like, gosh, I'd really like someone to, someone else to talk with about this. And that happens with so many books. So I can't ask for more. I am content with the fact that we even get to talk about 2 and sometimes 3 a week. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's talking about comics and sharing it with people who understand your love. I don't know. It's something that I don't think you get quite as much about any other medium. You talk about a TV show and yeah, it's a good TV show. Yeah, I watched it too. It's fun. Like, that's it. But people who love comics tend to really love comics. There's a new Blade Runner series out. Skip and I did do the whole 2019. It's 12 issues of 2019. This is the continuation of it in some factors. I haven't actually read it, so I don't know exactly how it goes. This is the B cover. It's because it's Sid Mead art. I'm a huge Sid Mead fan. I was a little thrown off. I was like, wait, I thought you told me to get the Sid Mead art. And she was like, it is the Sid Mead one. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I just wasn't expecting it to be this. But it's consistent. So if you're like, what? That's a weird cover. That's why. This is not the normal one. But it's continuations 10 years after the first one. It's a great book. Eric, did you get a chance to watch the stream that Skip and I did featuring Blade Runner?
I don't believe I did.
Oh.
I think that might have been one of the ones where we ran long on ours.
Oh, well, screw you then. Moving on. I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
well,
I'm just kidding.
What am I?
And then I got the hookup on this. This is why I love my comic book store. And friends, let this be a lesson. If you have a comic book store, you have them really well, because you scratch their back, maybe they'll scratch yours. And I got this book at cover price. And if you might go, Ash, well, of course you should get that. No, this is a surprise book. This is Solid Blood number 17. And some of you may know what this is because you follow comic book news and different things. And some of you might be like, what the hell should I care about this? So this is Robert Kirkman being his kind of weirdo self and doing these weird promotions that he loves to do. And he and Ryan Otley basically made this comic, and they're now pretending that they didn't make the comic, and it somehow appeared out of the nether, like from another multiverse. And it's just weird. Like, the printer called him up and said, hey, we got these books. And he's like, what? We didn't do these. And it's in issue 17. Of course, there is no 1 through 16, at least not yet. But this has an appearance of Michonne from Walking Dead in it. We don't really know what the extent of this promotion is going to be. They did one of those secret launches like they did with Die, 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 where they didn't announce the book was coming out. They just gave every store a number of copies equal to the number of Firepower issues that they ordered. And so this time, unlike with, like I found out about it, I called my store and I was like, hey, can I get a copy of this? And one of the other girls that works there, she's like, I don't know. It's like already $25. And I was like, please. And so she's like, I'll ask, one of the other girls, that's the main one. And she's like, yeah, she said you could have it, but you can't get your discount on it. And I was like, I don't care. Just give me the book. So lo and behold, it was there for me. And this is a fun thing. This is like a collectible. I wouldn't have paid $25 for it, FYI, but, and then this is reckless. I was so excited to get this. You can see Skip. If you look in the lower right corner, you can see the ding corner. I went to the store and they had a stack of these, and I was looking at it, and I knew I had it in my shopping cart online. I was going to order it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to buy it from this guy. I'd rather give my business a local business. And so I put the book down and I pulled one out of like the middle of the stack because I'm kind of anal about the quality of my books and stuff. And for whatever reason, I just let my guard down and think that was going to be enough. And I just bought the book, got home. And as I was taking these pictures, I was like, what the hell's wrong with this corner? I was like, mother effer. Oh, so mad.
I want to commend you for getting the damaged one so that other customers could get the mint condition copies.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
That's very magnanimous of you.
Yeah. And a lot of people are going to look at this and just go, Ash, it's no big deal. It's a minor ding. And you're right. It is. But it's one of those things that you buy the nice hardcover because you want the nice production. You want that premium edition, right? I buy a lot of, well, not currently, but I've bought lots of trade paperbacks, and the purpose that I bought them was so that I could read them over and over and lend them out, and they could take the abuse so that I wouldn't have to loan out my actual comics. But also, if I had read this book like 5 times and it had wear and tear, I'd be like, it'd be fine. But I haven't even pulled this out. There's like a plastic shrink wrap still around this that I haven't even opened. I'm like, oh, can I just have it in pristine condition for a little bit, please?
Like going to a Brubaker scratch and dent sale.
Yeah, right. And so apparently there's like a local artist, I guess, the comic book guy threw this piece of art in. I don't know who this is. There was some artist and it's signed, and he just threw that in. He didn't explain what it was though. I'm like, so I have this piece of art and it's signed, and I'm like, okay. But well, cool. I wish I knew more. Okay, how do I? If I like this, I couldn't even go find who he was. Like, it's not even like promotional because I can't go, oh, it's this guy. Like, let me go to his website. Nope, don't know who he is. But there it is. If you know who he is, please let me know. If you're a person that's like, oh yeah, I know who that. Ash, you should know who that is. And that's it. There's Arco again. So that was my adventures in San Diego today.
Nice.
So
I guess I should have been paying attention when they explained to me why there was a little postcard looking surfer guy on the back cover of that.
There's not, you liar.
That's what it is.
What?
That's that little thing that you on the cover. That's a guy surfing.
Hold on. What are you talking about, Eric?
The thing you were just talking about.
That's a piece of paper with art on it.
Yeah, and the piece of art is a guy surfing.
You're throwing me off here. I thought you were. Yes, but
that
what is it?
Whiskey is mighty good, isn't it?
I know. I said if I'd known you were going to talk about it, I might have paid attention at my LCS when they were saying why that was there.
Did you get one too?
Yes. That's why. How else would I? Well, no, I could have. No, so yeah, it looks like all of them had it. Yeah, and it looks like Looks like the top signature is Ed B, but I don't know what the one underneath it is.
Oh, is this Ed Brubaker? Because Ed Brubaker is an artist, I found out.
Maybe maybe he drew it then.
Oh, well, maybe I haven't signed Ed Brubaker. Oh, all right.
There you go.
Maybe that's worth the ding.
But I'm
Did
guessing
you get one of these, Skip?
No, I didn't, but I did know that Ed Brubaker is an artist. Same thing with Rick Remender too.
Ash, it appears that just the cool kids got him.
And I do also know that Ed Brubaker lives in Southern California. So if they said local, then that's probably why.
Oh, well, that's really cool then that they threw them in. Like, oh, well, look at there. I learned something. Very cool. Well, what do you think about my pulls there, Eric? Any of those excite you?
Obviously, the Reckless does. The tequila named after the dude. That's pretty impressive. I got nothing.
Nothing.
I got something.
Yeah, go for it, man.
One other thing, I noticed that the colors look very similar to both Elizabeth Brettweiser, who used to do the colors, like for Brubaker and Phillips' old stuff, and even fairly similar to the some of the colors that Jacob Phillips does, Sean Phillips' son. It's a little closer to Brettweiser. And the other thing is, I just looked up Ed Brubaker's signature, and that is Ed Brubaker's signature.
Well, there we go. Look at that. So I got a piece of art from Ed Brubaker signed. The guy doesn't even explain. He just like includes it in. Weird.
Yeah, totally jelly now. Totally jelly.
Nice. All right. So that's all I got today for what I picked up. I thought I would just throw that in on the stream since and I was like, I'll do a video. No, I'll just throw it on the stream. And so I took some pictures and did a slideshow. Look at me doing slideshows on YouTube. That should get me lots of viewers. So are you excited for me to read some criminal tonight? Excited for me to butcher it up? Hopefully I don't butcher it up. I probably will butcher it up. I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to be reading it cold. That's always a little bit more of a challenge when you're reading something cold.
This is true. But hey, as they say, the hotter the battle, the sweeter the victory.
Now, Skip, this whole thing that I do, the lives, the reading the comics live, this was actually ripped off from you. And I used to give you credit every video, and then I just kind of lost doing that just because I was like 30 videos of doing, explaining it. I was like, oh, maybe, I don't know. But I want to bring that now that you're here, you're on the stream. SkipNTosh, do you still do your Twitch stream live readings, or did you stop that?
It's been a while since I've gotten around to them. I've just been so busy with so many things. But now that I have like so many books that I enjoy, especially a lot of single issues kind of backed up, and my schedule is starting to normalize again, I'll be returning to that. But I did, just because I like cataloged all of them and I made all the playlists for like all the different groups, all the Hickman books that I did and all that stuff. I was going back and through and I was watching them and I was just like, man, I remember how much I enjoyed doing them. And I actually started it even before then. It all started on my previous comic book podcast, which was called the Capeless Crusaders. We started around, I think we started in 2013 with a bunch of friends that I used to work with. It started way back then. We eventually got into streaming, I think about 2 years in, so around 2014, 2015. And it just kind of all came together. And that was kind of, like how you discovered. I was just like, man, I've got these books, and some of these books I don't know. I don't hear a lot of people talk about them. So I was like, I wonder if people really kind of know. And I think my favorite one that I did was one where it was right before, I think it was right after Guardians of the Galaxy 2, right before Infinity War was going to come out. And I had done one where I showed some video clips from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Nebula and Gamora going at each other. And then I had read this book that was a tie-in to, I think it was in between Infinity War. where Nebula kind of has to go inside of Infinity and fix something because Infinity was catatonic, and she actually tells the story of how Thanos kind of took her in and why she actually even still has any kind of reverence for Thanos at all. But yeah, that's kind of where it all started, and I just kind of continued. I do some on the Thinking Critical channel. I did some with like actually voice effects over there. I read the Darth Vader comic by Karen Gillan. So anybody that didn't check that out, it might not still be there, but I think that was pretty fun. And it's really cool, honestly, to see other people embrace it, because I never wanted it to be like this is a thing that only I do. It really, I mean, I'm glad you took it and run with it, because I actually wanted to see everybody else. I wanted to see comics or the Real Comic Stacks do it. I wanted to see our buddy Chase, Gateway into Comics, do it, and I'm glad that you're doing it. I hope it does inspire more people, because it's a really fun community thing. Like, we're reading each other books. It's awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I'm not a Twitch guy, so I'm not ever really on Twitch unless I have a reason to go there. And so it's not like like with YouTube, you get the notifications. Like, my YouTube's pretty much permanently in my browser. I have a tab for YouTube, so it's a little bit easier. I'm constantly on, so I can see like, oh, hey, so and so is streaming, and like I would miss so many of your streams unless you told me. And sometimes your streams were just off times where I wasn't available, but I really enjoyed watching them very much. Obviously, I liked it so much I copied you, but you have them all cataloged, so people, if like were interested in going and seeing your stuff, they could go on your channel and like see like a catalog, or if I wanted to, I could go and see the stuff I missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody can go back and they can watch all of the ones that I had up there. I've got affiliate, so once I catalog them like that, none of those streams fall off. And I did edit them in a way to where, like, it starts right when I start reading the story and it ends a little bit after. There's a little bit after where there's some discussion with the chat, but yeah, anybody can go and check them out. And I'm thinking about hitting the button where it'll port them over to YouTube so they can be there. It's just YouTube's a little more strict than Twitch is with some of the music that I've got playing. So
yeah, if you're doing, you get the music and going.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I want to talk about music on the Monday stream. So
okay.
Remind me, because I've been wanting to on the last 2 episodes, and each time after we're done, are like, forgot to talk about the music again. Eric, we've been kind of talking and keeping you off there. What's going on in your mind over there, sitting on the couch?
Wondering if you were going to talk about good music or the stuff you usually listen to.
Oh. Wow.
Oh, wait a minute.
Shots fired. So what do you think about the reading comics? Is it obviously you've been a supporter of my stream well before I ever did reading comics and stuff, but what's your thoughts as a person who listens occasionally to someone reading? Is it a cool thing? Like, what benefits do you get out of it? What do you like, or do you like it at all?
I do. I don't get to. Yeah, it's a lot of times by the time you get started, I'm nodding off because it's after 2:00 on the East Coast, and for those of us that get up in the morning as opposed to like a Venkman that gets up at 8 in the evening, I don't get to listen that much, but I always get a kick out of the different voices you do.
I definitely try. I really wish I was a skilled voice actor. I have new admiration for people like Mark Hamill, or other really good voice actors that can just do tons of different voices. I don't have that ability, and I'm a terrible impressionist. I can't do accents. I really enjoy dramatic reading. I might as well plug. Englantine is doing a stream on Friday that I don't think I'm going to be able to attend due to scheduling conflicts, but he's doing it there. You guys are doing a live reading of Charlie Brown Christmas. As I understand. I don't know when exactly that is, but go check it out if you're interested. It's going to be a multicast. Each, different people are cast in different parts, and they're just going to read through. It sounds like it'd be fun. If you guys have never done it before, I mean, Skip has, I have. So if you haven't read a comic out loud, like dramatically, if you've got kids, it's a great opportunity to do it. Read your kids a comic. It's really fun. There's something different about it than just reading it to myself silently. What's your thoughts on that, Skip, as someone I know who's done both?
Same, very much. And it was something that I had started doing even just when I'm by myself. And I just noticed that I get into it more. I feel like, for the writers that care to put more effort and whatnot into, actually having distinct voices of the characters, I find myself falling into those more. So, just the joy of it and everything kind of abounds. I almost think back to when I was in a grade school? When I was in grade school, and we would like read stories, and the teacher would read stories to us, or even around a campfire telling stories to each other, and
oh yeah,
all the how the suspense would build, and then you also bring it down low to, and all the tension. It just reminds me of all that stuff. It really takes me to a place where everything else just kind of fades away, and you really do get into the world of the story, and into the minds and the voices and the scenarios of the people inside of them. It's really special.
Cool. LK in the chat said his favorite Brubaker book is still Sleeper. I saw that they have a collected volume. I think it's season 1 of Sleeper. And I believe my understanding, and LK can probably correct me, sounds like he knows, or one of you two, has there only been 2 seasons of Sleeper, and have you guys read them, and how good do you find them to be if you have?
Yes. I think there were 2 12-issue arcs. I can't remember if they renumbered or if it just went to issue 24. Been a while since I read it. I kept them, so I can, because I kept all my Brubaker even when I sold, so I can go back and read those at some point. But I said I've yet to read a Brubaker that I didn't like, so that. But
Okay.
just real quick, as to the Charlie Brown Christmas, I believe is going to start at 10 o'clock Friday.
10 o'clock Eastern time?
Yes.
10 o'clock Eastern.
We've got Maranya doing Lucy, I believe. We've got Englentine doing Charlie Brown. I was told my voice is too gruff to affect the voice of a younger character, so I am the narrator. I don't know what he's talking about. And we have I don't know if it's public knowledge, but we've got a pretty big name for Linus.
Oh. So you guys finally got Bendis to come on the channel. That'd be hilarious.
No, a big name that we like.
Oh. I hear Bendis is a nice guy. So yeah, I'm still dipping my toes into Brubaker. I've read some of the Captain America stuff. Thanks to your recommendations, Eric. I definitely want to read more. I've been exploring what's out there for Brubaker. Skip. I was Skip, and I believe Jimmy had a little bit of pull there too. And maybe, no, actually you and Skip and a little bit of Jimmy all combined made me want to read Pulp. But it was because of the show we did that really kind of cemented the deal. And I was like, yeah, let's do this Pulp book, because Skip was hot on it, and I read it, and it's the best book I've read in 2020. I think that book is like a masterpiece. I'm still blown away. I'm still thinking about that book even all this time later, and I did not expect to like it that much. I enjoyed the Captain America stuff that you wanted me to read, and it didn't live up to the enthusiasm that you have for the book, but I still really liked it and wanted to read more. Then I read Pulp, and I was like, whoa, this is great stuff. And in the comic book world, for me, you guys know me, I'm a big snob. I'm very anal retentive on things. I try to withhold the great moniker back, you know, and I try to just mostly say like, hey, it's pretty good. This is a very good comic. When I say something's great, I want it to mean something. So I tried to in this book, and I have been just drooling for more. Not necessarily cowboy stuff or anything like, not necessarily, you know, a story about comics writers, or anything like that. Nothing. I want more of just that quality writing. That to me it was a work of art, and so I've been pouring through and just going, seeing what has Brubaker done outside, you know, in the independent field with Sean Phillips. And I've come across Sleeper, you know, Criminal. There's Fatale. There's Velvet.
Well, Velvet was Steve Epting.
That's
So
true.
that was not with Phillips.
That wasn't
But
Sean
Skip
Phillips.
will probably back me up on this if he's read it. The Fade Out.
Oh, and there's also the Fade Out. Yeah.
That is actually my personal favorite so far out of everything I've read from Brubaker and Phillips. I do have to say I do prefer Elizabeth Burtweiser's colors over Jacob Phillips, and I have all of my Brubaker hardcovers laid out on my mini sofa next to my recliner in my room, and I was picking it up and I was flipping back through it, and I was like, once me and Ash go through Cruel Summer, Criminal 2019, I was like, that's the next book that I think we should read, because that's easily, out of all the ones that I have, the next one I think he will really enjoy.
Kind of figured when you were touting that noir book you picked up today that Fade Out would be among your favorites.
Oh yeah, it's my number one out of everything I've read from Brubaker, and I haven't read Sleeper yet, and I haven't read Velvet, so we got to keep those things in mind. But
there's also
yeah, the Fade Out is my
Incognito.
favorite. Yes.
Yeah, and then all the Criminal, you know, miniseries and, you know, trades, or however, you know, whatever format you pick them up in. Now, Ashley, I said I am a huge fan of the Captain America, as you know. I said, but this Brubaker has a true passion for crime noir. Yeah, this is his bread and butter, and you would be hard pressed to find anybody in the industry that does it better than him.
I'm beginning to believe, and that's why I'm getting very excited. Melissa in the chat says she's got to get going. Have a great stream. Congrats on the 100 streams. Bye, guys. Melissa, thank you so much for. I don't know if hopefully you're here still hearing me. Hopefully, anyways, man, don't drink and stream. You get all tongue tied. Thank you so much for your support of the things that I do, for being a regular. And thanks for hearing my discussions, and we've talked sometimes, and I say things to you, and I don't always agree with the things that you say and everything, but you've always been a very good person, and you listen, and you've been a very valued member of the audience, and so I wanted you to know that. So thank you for being here on the 100th, and I hope you have a good night. I'm sad that you're gonna miss the Criminal reading, but maybe you'll come back and listen to it on replay if you have time. So yeah, the Criminal books were kind of like a known quantity for me, right? Like I knew I was going to read Criminal. I have the first trade. I was going to read through, but I was like, man, there's all these other books that I don't really know. And I'm sure that they're all good on some level because Ed Brubaker's just that good of a talent. I mean, if the worst it ever gets is like Captain America level, it'll still be great, you know, like, and I don't mean to sound flippant on that because I know praise, but are there any of the books that kind of misfired? You know, like, because I don't Incognito, and until tonight, where LK said Sleeper is his favorite, I've never heard anyone talk about that one. I don't hear anyone talk about Velvet, and I don't really hear anyone talk. I've heard a little bit of the Fade Out, but I haven't heard until Skip. I haven't heard anyone say that much praise for it. So
well, the one thing about comics is the best stuff tends to not get noticed by the masses. That's just a sad fact. I mean, just look at Venditti's sales record.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm not saying that Brubaker's a well-kept secret, but there's so much stuff out there and like Sleeper, that's God, that's probably close to 20 years old now, if not even a little bit longer, or right around that area. Um, the Fade Out, like I said, that one kind of flew under the radar. If Fatale probably got a little more attention because it had the female lead that tended to lose her clothes on occasion. Um, and it had a supernatural-ish bent to it. And I liked it, but if I had to vote one off the island, it would be that, just because if I had to and something had to go, it would probably be that, but I would still recommend it highly. And the only thing of his I haven't read, I know I've read Incognito, but I said there's a ton of the criminal type stuff out there. I think Skip, is Incognito part of the criminal universe?
No, it's separate. It's not
Okay.
like in criminal canon.
And the only thing I haven't read yet is Kill or Be Killed. Because
Yeah, there's that one. That one had a lot of excitement around it when it was coming out in current issues.
Well, when it was first solicited, it was they did a 3-page preview, and the guy that was one of the characters was running around saying, "Oh, this world's all effed up. They let psycho or cops killing innocent black kids in the street every day. You got psychos becoming president of the United States." And I said, no. I go, he's joined the choir.
Oh,
nope.
no.
And then about a year later, I read that issue, and I still haven't read the thing, but I realized that if anybody is good enough, now I know he leans left, and he probably means that stuff, but he's a good enough writer to make that the personality of a character, whereas most writers put their personality in the character, and there's a difference that separates good writers from not good writers and great writers from average writers. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I read the first issue. I go, okay, this is good, but I tend to get sidetracked by the next thing I buy. But
right.
yeah, in other words, to make a short story long, I don't think there's any lemons in his catalog.
Right on.
Yeah, I would agree. I have read more of Kill or Be Killed, and I can say that part that everybody was showing so much, they were really highlighting a part that was a very isolated portion of the book. That is not a reoccurring theme in it.
Well, one thing I've known myself to be guilty of this. The one story that comes to mind as an example is the movie Knives Out by Rian Johnson of Last Jedi fame. That movie is a spectacular movie. It's such a I was really hoping it would get best screenplay, because it's one of the best screenplays I've seen in a long time. It's so well written. But in that movie, there's a character who's a kid who is basically like a total Trump, like everything that the left paints like Trump supporters, the whole alt-right Nazi kind of thing. Like this kid is like that. And my first gut reaction when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh God, here we go. But then as the movie plays on, it starts to become more apparent, like, well, no, wait a second. Just because we have a lot of writers out there that would interject themselves into the movie and write stuff like that doesn't mean that those type of people don't exist, right? Like, we should still be able to have movies that portray those type of people. It's and if you write it correctly, you're letting the character speak for themselves rather than the author speaking through the character.
And the girl was as much of an SJW as he was an alt-writer. And I thought Don Johnson, who was playing a very conservative character, he was not written as a boob.
Right.
So that was
true.
It was fairly done.
Yeah. Once you get past that and you're like, okay, ease off the trigger, you're like, oh, okay. Like, but it was just that reaction because we're so used to it, right? we read a comic book and it's just like, oh God, here we go. You read Batgirl 50. Like, it's just, you start getting used to that preachiness, but I don't know. I guess for me, it's what I'm trying to say is I try to give the little benefit of the doubt with good writers, because we should be able to write characters like that into stories. The answer shouldn't be, never put a character like that in a story so that you won't ever feel that way. Right.
We didn't get that way by accident. I mean, there's a reason.
No, you're
why
right. You're right.
are up.
No, you're right. And you were saying your testimony of why you didn't finish reading after the first issue, right? You were like, and it's a writer that you have tons of love for. And
I didn't read the first issue. I've since gone back and I intend to finish it.
I meant the preview, the first preview.
The preview was enough because that was when the Trump bashing was really hitting its stride.
Sure. I guess what I was just trying to do, and I'm doing it very poorly apparently, is...
No, you're actually doing it perfectly. I'm just saying there's a reason why guys like us have become...
Yeah.
It's
a good lesson to learn and say, you know what? When in doubt, like, give the benefit of the doubt. Good writers, sometimes it's not always what you think.
As you learned with America.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of America, I was planning on reading an America issue as well tonight if we had time, but I think we're going to be pushing it on that. So I'm going to read Criminal. We've had a really good discussion. I know I've talked a lot. So I apologize if I didn't give much go around that I normally would. I really love having you guys here to help me kind of throw some support on that. I want to read the first issue before it gets too late, because I know some people here just wanted me to read comics. They don't like me talking. But if you guys want to hang around in there, you're more than welcome. I don't know what your guys' schedule are, if you have to go to bed or what have you. I completely understand. I don't want to put you on the spot. But I'll leave that up to you. I'm going to go ahead and read the first issue, and then I'll check out the chats and see what people thought. And before I go on, any final thoughts about Criminal that I'm about to read, starting on issue 2 for the Bad Weekend story?
Yes. Merry Christmas, everyone. This is for all of us who have a heart for comics, no matter what role we play in it, whether it's creator, casual creator, professional, spectator, shop owner, publisher. This is literally made for all of us. So for me, Ash, Breen, all of you, Merry Christmas.
Very nice. I want to add that these books were contributed by Skip as well. He donated them to the channels for me to read to you guys. So thank you again also for that, Skip. And Eric, anything to say about the Bad Weekend storyline from you?
Oh, yeah. But it's just love this little 2-issue arc. All the real world creators that get name dropped in this story, that weave fact and fiction together. You're going to enjoy this. Hope you guys do as well in the chat.
Very good.
All right. And now without further ado, if I can figure out how to work this crazy thing, we have Criminal, issue 2 of the 2019 run of Criminal, which Ed Brubaker out there, if you're listening, can you please delineate your books a little bit, maybe have some subtitles like you do for the trades? So if I just see an issue of Criminal in the back issue bin, I know which series it belongs to because I was perusing that. Anyways, that's just a little thing. Just maybe a small print somewhere. Anyway, just think about it. That's all I'm saying. Some of you guys might be wondering why this starts at issue number 2. I don't completely know myself, but apparently this whole 2019 run, the story maybe, I guess, diverges, goes off different places. They pulled out the 2 issues, 2 and 3, and put it in hardbound cover called Bad Weekend. You may have seen it. It's got a pink cover with the older gentleman on it. And then the what's the name of the new book, Skip?
Oh, Cruel Summer.
Cruel Summer. If you get the Cruel Summer trade, then it's all the issues besides this. So it's weird. Like normally you'd think it'd be the whole thing, but it's not. So you got to get Bad Weekend and Cruel Summer together. You get the whole 2019 run. I'm going to be reading what's included in Bad Weekend, just for clarification of people who may be interested. By the way, the first issue of this run, issue number 1, which I'm skipping right now, is available for free on Comixology, 100%, no strings attached. You don't need a membership or anything. You can just go download it and read it yourself. So if you like what you see here, you can go check that out. And if you like that too, then you can go pick up Cruel Summer and get the rest of the story. Maybe you'll be criminal fans like the rest of us. And here we go. Further disclaimer, this is a cold reading of the book, so I have never read this book before. Sometimes that makes it a little bit more challenging to read out loud. Please forgive any mistakes I'm about to make. Bad Weekend by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. July 1997. I was out doing footwork on a job that I was having trouble with. And when I came home, there was a message on my machine. Hi, Jacob. It's Mindy from the convention. Comic Fest, I mean. Could you give me a call back, please? It's kind of urgent. Apparently, Hal Crane was flying in to be given a Lifetime Achievement Award, and they needed someone to basically be his minder for a few days. Make sure he got to the ceremony and his other appearances. I don't know. I've got a lot going on. Please, it's just for the weekend. He asked for you specifically, Jacob. Right after high school, about 10 years before this, I was one of Hal's assistants. He went through 3 or 4 of them a year back then, and I guess I lasted longer than most. But it ended badly with us. Of course, that didn't make me special. Hal ended most of his relationships badly. Supposedly, when he quit working for National back in the day, he decked Julie Schwartz over a bad inking job. And there's another story about him pulling a gun on some editor at Marvel in the early 70s. Jerry Conway, I think. Hal said all that stuff was bullshit, that all he ever did was yell and throw some things around a few times. Why would he ask for me? I haven't heard from him since I quit. I don't know, he just did. But you still hear lots of those stories, and no one has any trouble believing them. I sure didn't. Look, he gets here Friday morning. What can I do to persuade you? A lifetime pass to the fest? In my experience, Hal Crane was a bad collection of bad habits and worse moods. But somewhere under all the smoke and whiskey and sullen glares was one of the most talented artists you ever saw. Speaking of whiskey, hold on. Can't let the ice melt.
That's not on my copy.
Continuing. The kind of guy who could ink with a toothbrush or a broken stick and the page would still come out perfect. Which is why everyone put up with everything else about him. And why I said, okay, I guess I'll do it. I was a sucker for Hal's punishment because I was probably his biggest fan. Friday. Wow, that looks like San Diego. That looks like the view right out of San Diego Comic-Con. Anyways, going on. I realize I'm acting like you know who Hal Crane is when you probably don't. Unless you know a lot about comics. But there are 2 reasons you might have heard of Hal anyway. Things that had made him kind of famous in the real world. First, because he was the main designer and storyboard artist for Danny Danger and the Fantasticals, a cartoon my generation grew up with. Danny Dagger. Did I read that wrong? Sorry, it was Danny Dagger and the Fantasticals. Edit. Back to the story. Danny Dagger.
Fix it in post.
Fix it in post. Danny Dagger, Princess Yaz, and her little brother Tanner, and his pet dragon Stuffy, were not huge hits when they originally aired. But the after-school reruns in the 70s made the show a pop culture sensation, syndicated and merchandised around the world. This is not something you want to bring up with Hal Crane if you ever meet him, by the way. He hated that show, even before he felt ripped off by it. So it's kind of funny that when I finally spot Hal across the hotel lobby, he's talking to a woman in a Princess Yaz costume. And he's actually smiling and being polite, too. For a second, I wonder if he's changed. Maybe gotten sober or found God. But then she slaps him. And I laugh at myself for thinking anything would be different. Jesus. Hey, kid. It's good to see you. What the hell was that about? Ah, nothing. I offered her $100 to come up to my room. Jesus, Hal. You can't do stuff like that. I thought she was a prostitute. Why? She's a booth babe, aren't they all? She's not a booth babe, Hal. She's a fan. She probably made that costume herself. Girls come to this con dressed like that and no one's paying them? Yeah. Why? Because it's not 1978 anymore. Now, come on. Let's go get our schedule. Why is this place so crowded? I thought comics was going bust. Oh, I don't know. I don't really keep up with the fan press anymore. Hal was right, though. This was 1997 and the comics industry was in a death spiral. Publishers going bankrupt, distributors imploding, shops closing all over the country. Comics was a tiny business that was going down for the last time, and everybody knew it. But the convention hall was more crowded than ever. Everyone, all smiling and happy. Maybe no one had told them that the party was ending soon. Or maybe they were here for the last hurrah. True fans will always go down with the ship. It's one of their best and worst qualities. So, looks like you've got a panel coming up. It's you, Joe Kubert, Will Eisner, and Al Williamson. Oh yeah, the old timers panel. I'm not going to that. You're just gonna not show up? I'm sure no one will miss me. Yes, they will. The organizers are going to be pissed. Well, too bad. Because we got other plans. Shit, we're late already. I said there were 2 reasons you might know Hal Crane's name. And the second one is why he's sitting in the back seat like I'm his chauffeur. Hal was the other person in the car with Archie Lewis when he crashed in 1955. Headline, Crash Kills Star King Cartoonist. It's one of comics' famous deaths, like Max Gaines or Jack Cole or Wally Wood. The police ruled it an accident, but the rumors that Lewis was suicidal have never gone away. Hal had been inking backgrounds on Star King for a few months before the crash. He was just a kid starting to make a name for himself. And then Archie Lewis dove into a wall and derailed his whole life. I remember talking to Joe Orlando once about Hal back in those days. And he said before the wreck, Hal was the sweetest guy you ever met. Just this talented kid bursting with ideas. The cantankerous Hal, the paranoid and bitter one, the drunk, that came later. That car crash is another thing you should never mention to Hal, obviously. I've actually only heard him talk about it one time. Here he is, thank God. That day in the car, when his idol died and he walked away with barely a scratch. Thought maybe you were changing your mind, Hal. No, not if you brought the cash. These look legit, right? Me and my buddy made them at the copy shop he works at after hours. Yeah, they look pretty close to the real thing. Counterfeit animation cells. How much are you getting for these? About 300 each, and they move fast with Hal's signature. But don't worry, man. I'm keeping them under the table, for serious collectors only. Good. You don't want to let the studio lawyers see that stuff. These skeevy art dealer types are always circling Hal like vultures. And he always needed their money, usually to pay off gambling debts when I worked for him. I think he hated these guys as much as he hated his publishers. Since he sold off all his best pages years ago, then watched them sell over and over again for higher prices. It was sad, but Hal had done it to himself. No one forced him to go to the racetrack or have 3 ex-wives. Hey, Dick, you hear about any of my stuff going on the market recently? There was that Princess Yaz character sheet last month. No, this would be a bigger deal than that. I don't know, man. With the new snow coming up, Princess Yaz is a new show. With the new show coming up, Princess Yaz is a pretty big deal now. What new show? Some live action thing. No Danny Dagger, just Princess Yaz. It's like Power Girl or whatever. Why didn't you tell me about this? Because I didn't know. Oh, it's not official yet, but people have been talking. Word is they're announcing soon. Maybe this weekend at the fest. Well, isn't that just great? But I was actually talking about older pages. Rare stuff. You want me to ask around? I could give Scott a call. No, that's all right. Don't worry about it. So, you've got a dinner with some of the organizers and the other guests in a little while. Yeah? Is Frank Harmony going to be at that? No. But Stan Lee and Marvin Ray Goodman will be. Bullshit. Stan Lee isn't going to any organizer dinner. Where can we find Frank Harmony? I don't know. Probably in a penthouse suite somewhere? Frank Harmony was the co-founder of the animation studio Hal worked at. The guy who got rich off Danny Dagger. Looks like he'll be at the ceremony tomorrow night. He's presenting your award. He is? Jesus Christ. Insult to fucking injury. We end up in a bar where all the comics pros come to drink at these things, waiting for the old friends that he actually wants to see, Hal, he says. Sorry. Your mind gets... Pause here. Your mind gets tracked into something. I just read it all. Anyways, I had a brain fart. Starting over. We end up in the bar where all the comics pros come to drink at these things, waiting for old friends that he actually wants to see, Hal says. Hey, kid, why didn't you bring any of your recent pages to show me? I don't really have any recent pages, Hal. I've got a different job now. Took over my dad's business. You threw in the towel? Really? You're the one who said I wouldn't make it. I never said that. And why the hell would you listen to me anyway? Because I was your assistant? No. You can't let anyone tell you what you can be or not. I was probably trying to toughen you up. If I said that. Yeah? Okay. He said it. I can still hear him say it 10 years later. That's a memory that sticks with you. The time your favorite artist that shat all over your hopes and dreams. So it's funny that Hal doesn't remember it all. But it's the bitter kind of funny. I guess I could have been any one of hundreds of kids whose work he ripped apart over the years. I start wondering again why Hal asked for me as his driver. I'll be right back. But then I see him following Rook Morgan into the men's room. And something about that just feels wrong. Rook Morgan is another name you won't know. Rook spent his career doing fill-in issues of books like Man-Thing, Cat Lad, and The Haunted Tank, and was never anyone's favorite artist. Years ago, he gave an interview where he called Hal his mentor. And Hal had ripped that page out of the magazine and set it on fire. No, don't! Tell me right now, you fat bastard. Hal, please! I don't know what you're talking about. Hal, cut it out. Back off. Jesus. This son of a bitch has something of mine. I don't. I swear to God, I don't. Bullshit. You took advantage of me when I was sick. I should have never let you into my house. Hal, please. It's not me. I swear to you. Then who? Look, I heard from Lucinda a few weeks back. She was looking to sell some of your pages, okay? Why didn't you call me? She said you gave them to her. And you believe that? Why? Because you wanted to fuck her? Hey, you know what? Screw you, Hal. Up there on your high horse, like you never stole anyone else's art. I kind of respect Rook's nerve for saying that. Oh, you son of a bitch. But he clearly didn't think it through. Crack. Ah! You don't throw fuel on a drunken maniac. Come on. We gotta go now. Hey, I still have a drink. No, you don't. See, back in the 70s, when Hal's gambling debts were destroying his second marriage, he got a bad rep as an art thief. Pages would go missing from editors' desks and show up on the collector's market. Wrightson, Kirby, Windsor Smith, any name that would sell. Will you slow down? Take it easy. I'm trying to get you away from here before the police show up and arrest you. And even though this was an open secret in the industry, Rook's not gonna call the cops. You broke his nose. That's felony assault. No one ever mentioned it to Hal. He's not calling the cops. I'm his mentor, remember? Trust me, he'll be dining out on this story for years. Maybe because they all knew how ashamed he was. You want to tell me what that was all about? You heard it all. Someone stole something from me. Last year when I was sick. Guess I let my guard down. And this Lucinda chick, she has your pages? Apparently. Okay, so where do we find her? Holy shit, that's Gaslamp, San Diego. Very nice. Lucinda lived in a little rundown cottage near the beach. She wasn't home, but Hal knew where to find her. Still letting that little tyrant run your life, huh? Hal? Hey, baby. You know, a call before a visit is generally appreciated, or so I've been told. Touché. Who's your little friend? I'm just the driver. Jacob used to be one of my assistants. Ah, of course he did. You know why I'm here. I do? Oh, okay. And here I was just thinking you just missed me. Don't try to make yourself the victim. You stole from me. Oh, God, no. No one can ever be as much of a victim as you, can they? Well, you're too late anyway. I already sold everything. I got a decent price, too. Paid off my mortgage. Just like you always promised you were gonna do. So, thanks for that, Dad. Now, was that all you came for? Because Mr. Snickers is getting cold out here. Wait. What? Tell them to. I was racking my brains, trying to remember Hal ever mentioning a daughter. Are you okay? Yeah, I just need a drink. When I got the answer to the question I'd been asking myself, hey, you said you went into your family business. Yeah, why? Why, Hal had picked me to be his driver. Your dad was a thief, right? Where are you going with this, Hal? Well, I'm hoping you know someone who likes to break into rich people's houses. Because I need you to help me rob someone. To be continued. Oh, a little bit of information here. For anyone confused as to why this issue isn't a continuation of last issue, I did warn you this series was going to be unpredictable. Just to get this out of the way, this issue's story isn't based on anything or anyone in particular. It's got bits and pieces of reality and history sprinkled around the fictional comics world of Criminal that we saw previously in Bad Night and The Wrong Time, The Wrong Place. But it isn't to be an expose of the comics industry. It's really a crime story wrapped around a character study about a young guy and his one-time idol, which is something I think a lot of us can identify with, regardless of your interest in real or fake comics history. I point this out because there are names of real comics people next to made-up ones in the story, and I just want to be clear that as far as I know, no one ever pulled a gun on Jerry Conway when he worked at Marvel Comics in the 1970s. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying this one so far. The story goes to some different places in the concluding chapter next issue, and we'll see some familiar faces there as well. So I guess they didn't really explain why the divergence, but that was interesting. I'm not going to read the whole thing. If you guys are interested in reading it, then you should pick up the comic or the trade, because that was pretty good so far. I'm very much into the story.
Good. Good.
Yeah, one of the characters you meet in the next issue is a character that we saw in the first issue, just 10 years older. And it's the main family of the criminal books, the Lawlesses. Yeah, his son is in the next issue, and
Ah,
that's kind of the connective tissue between.
nice.
Because the first one's about the dad, and then the series is about the dad, but then this, these two that break off is, it's set 10 years later.
And technically, this character comes back around too later on in those books,
Ah,
later on in the Cruel Summer books. Yeah.
very cool. Cool. Now, one question I had for you guys, not related to this particular story, but I noticed there's another book floating around I see with Bad Weekend, and it's this book down here. My heroes have always been junkies. Skip, what is this book?
That one, it's kind of in the same vein of kind of Bad Weekend and Pulp. He does these short stories and the novellas, really, which has been a term in writing for a long time. Not a full novel, but a novella, a small novel, and that's what My Heroes Have Always Been Junkies is. I own that one as well.
So if you want this story, it sounds like here it answered part of my questions. Newsweek's best comic books of 2018, Thrillist best comics, graphic novels 2018, da da da. Diamond Gem Award for best original graphic novel. So it sounds like this is kind of like Pulp, where it's just completely original. It was never not a reprint of comics. If you want this story, in other words, you got to buy this,
Yes.
right? Because, for example, I was at the comic book store today, and they happened to have this comic I just read, Criminal issue number 2, and they had issue number 3. I was really close to buying it. I'm like, I could have the physical copies of these. They were just cover price in the bin. So sometimes, for example, it would actually be cheaper to buy the 2 issues than it would be to buy the hardcover. Of course, they're not hardcover, but you see my point.
True. And I will point out something about the hardcover that does distinguish it from these two. In the hardcover, there are some slight differences in the story, as well as they added some additional pages that actually didn't make it, that kind of got edited out or left on the cutting room floor, so to speak, when they put out issues 2 and 3. So in the hardcover, there are some slight differences and some additions, which really the slight differences tied those additions in better, because I can see if they didn't change it at all, it wouldn't have been as smooth. So that is something to know. And I actually did a stream where I read 2 and 3, and then I read the hardcover with my camera back to back and went through each page, and we found what the differences were. Lord was there, and Nalo was on that stream as well with me. Or excuse me, he was in the chat while I was doing
Very cool. So if you go and get the Bad Weekend hardcover, you're sort of getting some rough equivalent of like a director's cut or extended edition type thing.
That's a fantastic way to describe it. Yes.
Nice. All right. So I'll have to pick up. Oh, cool. All right. Well, here's all the different criminal books. These up here on the left with the big bright colors, these are the trade paperbacks that feature one complete story arc. These 2 white ones are the omnibuses, if you will. They make up like 3 of the trades each, so they're like the bigger hardcovers. They have new printings now, so they don't have these covers. These ones with the white border are actually very expensive. But they have the new covers. I'm trying to find. I can't even find the new ones. Even they're like out of print. So I'm hoping to pick these hardcovers up. And then here's the Fade Out. Fade Out apparently is collected. You can get them in trades, but you can also get them in 2 hardcovers. And then here's Kill or Be Killed. This is one of the most recent. I remember people talking about this a lot while it was out. And then there's Fatale. That's the one you said had a little bit of supernatural, which it's pretty apparent actually on the covers now that you mention it. I don't know why I didn't notice it before. All right. So this is really good. I'm very much happy that you picked these up for me. Very happy to be reading them. These are very fun to read. I love reading fiction out loud is very fun, but reading pulpy noir, it's even like more fun. Like I love it. Like I have this sort of giddiness when you watch like a pulp, like a noir movie, and it's like the Sam Spade type of, voiceover stuff. I don't know. I love it. So when I'm reading it myself, I kind of feel like I'm in the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say you did a really good job with this for being a cold reading.
Oh,
And
thanks.
the only thing I think, if you had read this beforehand, when Hal meets Lucinda, I don't think you knew that it was father-daughter
No, I
yet.
didn't.
So it would have probably been more like a, hey, baby, instead of the, hey, baby.
You're right. You're totally right. You're totally right. Yeah. That's a nice catch. You're totally right. There's a few parts in the book as I was reading, and I'd get like passed through the page, and I'd be like, "Oh, I kind of did that." Now I see how it plays out. It's also hard doing a cold read when you're doing it panel by panel like this, and I don't. When you read a comic on a full page, like a physical copy, your peripheral vision sort of like picks up where things are going, and it's a little bit easier. But when I'm reading it this way, and I just I could only see one panel at a time, the next one is a complete surprise to me. Sometimes I'm not prepared for where things go, and I mess things up, as you probably witnessed a couple times through that book.
So I'm just curious, did you recognize all the old names that were referenced in there?
Some of them, obviously Jerry Conway, Stan Lee, of course, are big names. What I was actually wondering as I was reading it, and he sort of denied it at the end in that little text that I read, I was wondering if some of these fictional names were meant to be analogs to real people.
Yeah, I was trying to think that. So the guy that died in the wreck, that I don't think that was supposed to be anybody, because the closest one I can think of, that because he mentioned Jack Cole and Wally Wood, who both killed themselves, and Max Gaines died in a boating accident. But the only person that came close to dying in a car crash was actually a train crash when Joe Manili walked out in front of a train. He actually got drunk, couldn't find his glasses, and like slipped onto the tracks. But so I don't think that was supposed to be. I don't think what was his name? Frank Harmony. I don't think he was. I'm not sure. I can't think of what real world counterpart he could have. So I tend to believe Brubaker that they weren't stand-ins or analogs for anybody that I can think of.
Okay.
Although I do very much feel like the main character Hal is with very apparent differences. Almost, maybe if they knew the kind of treatment that they were going to get, they may have been a little bit more like Hal. But I definitely get some King Kirby vibes and a little bit of Ditko too.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting. Like, he's referencing kind of that 60s era where a lot of people kind of got screwed over in different things, and there was just like a different era, like a bygone time. And not that I think that any of these characters are meant to secretly represent that character, but maybe if these fictional characters were based on personalities, like one of the first things that, like, when as I started reading this book, one of the first things that crossed my mind is I was like, hey, is this Hal guy like supposed to be kind of inspired by like a John Byrne? Like, because
Byrne too, right? Yeah.
Like, because the way, I don't think so as the more I read it, but like in the beginning, it was like, oh, so he's just like this bent out of shape guy who's kind of an asshole to everyone and thinks, like there was a lot of things I was like, there's some similarities here. And he's, and then they have the whole mentor thing. And I'm like, oh, then I was like, wow, there's some Neil Adams stuff going on here. Like, I don't know, maybe there's a hodgepodge, maybe Brubaker's
amalgamation.
Yeah, maybe Brubaker's like met different people and kind of like took the little bits and pieces of their personality and reputations that he's heard, and he's like combined them to make these fictional characters. I don't know, Eric. Do you think that's possible?
There were some aspects maybe to Steve Ditko's personality, although Ditko would have never made the public appearances to
right.
and neither one of them were. Remember, like Hal is an amoral creep and a thief. Ditko and Kirby weren't that. So I don't know if it's just elements of their career that he was maybe trying to draw attention to, as far as like having his work stolen. But it seemed like Hal was the one had talent, but he wasn't above stealing from other people either. So I'm not sure if Hal is supposed to represent any one person in particular. And I didn't get the Kirby or Ditko thing, but for the reason that those guys were, that I said Kirby was definitely screwed over. But one line that did ring true said, we said he did it to himself. You can say that about both Ditko and Kirby, but the other parts of the personality, what was, I think, just a work of fiction. Actually, I said the personality. I said, maybe a little bit of Bob Kane. Just
okay.
As being just a complete blowhard.
I think as we go over into the next issue, we'll pick up a little bit more of that, because I do agree. I think it's a little bit of overall it's a character that got shaped as obviously a bunch of the stories that we heard of. Yes, the very good artist, especially who got screwed over in so many different ways, but also kind of made him very much his own character to have it removed enough from that. But as we get over into issue 2, a few other characters are going to pop up and a few other things are going to happen that I think will put some other people in some of those other character places as well. So yeah.
All right. Well, before I get started on the next one, kids, remember, if your bottle of tequila isn't corked, then it's not high quality. Never get a screw-on cap tequila. This is Tres Generaciones. It's by Sauza. If you're ever going to get cheap tequila, don't ever get Cuervo. Get Sauza Conmemorativo. If you can find it at a liquor store, that is the best. I don't want to say, it's not like a cheap tequila, but it's, it's like $16 a bottle or something. It's not like expensive stuff, and it's really good for mixing or doing shots if you want to do. But this is the good stuff by Sauza. Apparently, I don't remember tasting it before, so I'm about to find out.
So, Ash, I think I'm going to jump off at this point and just listen to the rest of it in chat.
Mm-hmm.
It says pushing 3, but Skip, I saw what you wrote, and I say that I ran into Harlan Ellison at a convention. Yeah, I was on the floor going through comic boxes, and he leaned down and said, "Any Super Friends in there?"
Nice.
That was my brush with greatness with Harlan Ellison.
That's rad. That's such a so rad awesome story. Oh, this stuff is really good. Oh, okay, sorry.
And I said, "Why'd you rip off that Star Trek episode?" And then he kicked me in the head.
That's very Harlan Ellison.
That's so rad. I wish I had stories like that. Well, thank you, Eric, for joining me this far. I know.
Blast. Thank you for.
I know it's really late for you, so you made it really far. Obviously, my dream would be that you can make the whole stream. I love hearing your comments after I read the book. But if you're awake, I'll see him in chat, and we'll see if Skip is able to stay around. I'm going to get on the next book. And
I saw guys have a great rest of the stream.
All right, man.
You too, Breen.
See you,
Thanks,
Breen.
Man.
We got RDV joining us in the house. As usual, he's reading a different comic instead of listening to the one I'm reading. We got LK had to go to bed, so he said he's listening in bed. So LK, if you're still hearing me, hope you're enjoying. Dragon Ball Talk made it. Welcome, Dragon Ball Talk. And I don't have time to read all the comments, guys. I apologize. Jimmy says, Ash, when you read the second issue, it literally is wrapped up so perfectly. It's almost a perfect book and is better than Pulp. Wow. What do you think of that comment? Is this better than Pulp to you too, Skip?
I'll say this. To me personally, it is better than Pulp, but knowing you, I think you will lean towards Pulp while still having a very specific appreciation for the way that this book wraps up. They are two different ones. I lean towards this one, but I know Pulp is your jam, and I know why. But I'm gonna let you be. I'm gonna let you decide. But yeah, to me personally, I like this one better than the way that Pulp wraps
I will
up.
tell you, I really do love the subject matter of this book. When you said it like kind of involved comics, like I was picturing it like Pulp did, where it was a minor part of the book. The fact that the guy wrote comics, it's a very minor piece where he wasn't that important to the story at all. So I was figuring, okay, this book's another one of those books where it has, a little tie-in. I didn't expect it would be like at a comic convention, like because the dude's a comic writer. Like I was like, holy crap! Like this is like if it feels like Quentin Tarantino doing a movie about comic dudes. It's
right.
It's cool. That's a
great way to compare it. Yeah.
This is very much conceptually, it is my jam. I am very much liking it so far. Jimmy says it wraps up really well. You both give it higher marks, even if minorly, just barely above Pulp. We'll see. Even if it's 80% of Pulp, this is going to be an amazing book. Like because Pulp is that good to me.
Yeah.
Let's see who else says. RDV says I only give tequila to women. All right, this is good tequila though. Ed Brewer's in the house. This is a nice bottle of tequila. No man, good tequila you can sip. That's how you know the difference. This stuff, by the way, if you get an añejo, a good añejo, it's aged in wood barrels, like bourbon barrels. So it has kind of that woody taste like a good bourbon, and it's very mellow. Yeah. Actually, this stuff is really woody. Anyway, I'm not going to sit here and talk about tequila. Let's get back to the story. Having a blast reading this. Saturday. I feel like I'm not giving you a fair picture of Hal Crane. I'm talking like he's just this string of bad luck and drunken rage. But there was more to him than that. So let me tell you my favorite memory of Hal. It was just before Christmas, 1988, and we were pulling an all-nighter, finishing a story for Tomb of Unknown Horror. I was filling in blacks and inking some of the backgrounds, all the boring stuff, and Hal was finishing everything else. On tight deadlines, it was a nightmare trying to keep up with him. He was about 60 then, but he could still go days without sleep when he was inking. I'd be running on fumes, and with each page, Hal somehow seemed more awake, more energized. We finished around 4:30 in the morning. I could tell Hal was happy with how this one had turned out, and I felt a swell of pride that kind of surprised me. Then he said, "Hey, kid, you want to see something?" And he took me down the stairs to his house. To his library, which is strictly off limits to assistants. Now, this was just a few weeks before I quit working for Hal, and he was far from my favorite person at this point. It's funny how fast that can happen when you get to know your heroes. Because when I got the assistant job, I was sure it was going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. See, I'd never done too well with people. I had friends, sure, but even they made me feel anxious and alienated most of the time. My whole life, my happiest days were the ones I spent alone with my books and comics. Those were my real friends. The ones that helped me escape through all the thoughts spinning around in my head. And from the first time I saw his name in the credits in Sword of the Savage, number 54, Hal Crane was one of my favorite artists. I was always trying to draw like him, or rereading his fanzine interviews from the 60s and 70s. This was a huge part of my childhood. I knew he wasn't the same guy from those old interviews when I went to work for him, but I still had stars in my eyes anyway. I was going to study with the master. So what if he was kind of a crotchety old man now? So were all the teachers in the Kung Fu movies. I know, Mindy. I'm sorry. Look, I'll do my best to make sure he gets the awards ceremony, okay? Your best? But the reality of Hal wiped those stars away pretty quickly. If things hadn't been so screwed up back at home, I might have quit right away. Instead, I was stuck in a room with a guy I'd grown up worshiping, seeing what was left of him. The bitter, drunken rants about publishers and editors and studio bosses who lied and ripped him off. The fights with his ex-wives over alimony payments. Soaking his hands in ice at the end of the day. I started thinking that a 60-year-old man still having to pull all-nighters was more sad than anything. Is it all set? We'll see. My friend's gonna meet us for lunch. Anyway, so Hal led me into his library, which was impressive. Walls lined with art books, old pulp magazines, paperback crime novels right next to great works of literature, Shakespeare, Dickens, Cervantes. But what he wanted to show me was locked inside a cabinet across the room. His real treasure. His newspaper strip collection. They were big, cloth-bound books, and pasted into them were daily strips and Sunday pages from the comics Hal had loved as a child. Terry and the Pirates, Jungle Jackson, Scorchy Smith, Captain Easy, and Star King. My exposure to newspaper strips up until then was pretty limited, and Hal knew that. So he poured himself a drink and started showing me his favorite sequences, telling me about the characters. So, Max King is a space pilot who gets pulled through a vortex into another galaxy. And as he talked, I could see that kid inside of him, still. The one who carefully cut his favorite strips from the paper every day and glued them into books that he saved for his entire life. The kid who survived the Depression by disappearing into magic and mystery and tales of wonder. It was really something to see that there was still some joy inside Hal, even if it was wistful and nostalgic. And then Max Princess Lila became space pirates for the next 2 years. Eventually, he fell asleep while I was looking at one of the books, so I threw him a blanket on him and went home. And the next day, it was like none of that happened. He was back to treating me like an unwanted stepchild who couldn't even rule panel borders correctly. But still, that's my favorite memory of Hal. Look, just follow my lead in here, okay? We don't want to tell Ricky anything that he doesn't need to know. You don't trust him? No, I do. I know him too. So, what kind of building am I looking at? Is there a doorman or a front desk or... Not that I recall. but I was only there once. Okay. So what do you recall? I think we called up from the front door and he buzzed us in. He's on the 3rd floor, apartment 3G, like the comic strip. Okay, that's good. Should be no problem then. Ricky Lawless was one of those friends I mentioned before. The ones who made me so anxious. I'd known him since we were kids. And he'd always been a thief. Houses, shops, cars. Ricky didn't care. He'd break into anything. I was constantly worried he was going to get me arrested as an accomplice, long before I actually was one. So what am I looking for when I get inside? Some of my old pages. But this guy has so much art, you'll never find him. I'll have to come in after you to disable his alarm. We can go up the back stairs if there's cameras at the front. You're coming? Really? It's not Fort Knox, it's an apartment. And we'll be in and out in 5 minutes. So, what's the deal? This guy's a collector? Is he rich? Yeah, he's pretty rich. He wrote that Christmas movie. The one where the kid pukes on Santa. Oh, yeah. I saw the trailer for that. I could practically hear the wheels turning in Ricky's mind now. And I instantly regretted calling him. So look, what if we get up there and we can't find your shit because it's inside some safe? Oh, yeah, I guess that's possible. We don't want to go into all this effort to hit a brick wall, you know. So what? You don't want to do it? No, I want to do it right now while the guy's still home, so I can get him to open this fucking safe. Of course, he would make it more dangerous. That was who he was. The problem with Ricky was that his dad had been a legend, and not in a good way. Who is it? UPS. Got a package for David Mandrell. I need a signature. Teague Lawless was scary, unpredictable, and violent. And until he took a bullet into the head, most of us figured he was unkillable. His death and the trouble that came after was what I'd been running away from when I went to work for Hal. But Ricky had stayed up here and spent his past 10 years trying to live up to the family reputation. He would never be his dad. He was smarter, for one thing, which made him a better thief. But he sure as hell wanted people to know he was his father's son. And that just like Teague, knock, 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 he wasn't afraid of anything. Holy shit! Let's keep that voice down, okay? All right, old man. Have a look around. It's all clear. Where's the guy? What did you do to him? Relax, he's in here. See? Is someone else there? Shut up, Dave. The safe's in a walk-in closet down here. Bunch of art and stuff in there. A couple envelopes of cash, but I haven't counted them yet. We're not here for his money. Maybe you aren't. God damn it, where are they? Hang on. Here we go. Oh, what the fuck? What is it? Just some shit I did in the 70s. Not what I was looking for. I need to talk to David. That's not such a great idea, man. I don't care. Hey, what's going on? Hal? You broke into my house? You bought some pages from my daughter. They were stolen and I want them back. Give the man what he wants, Dave. Hal, you know I would never. He doesn't care. Where's the stuff? In the safe. They're in the safe. It's your first Zangar story. I haven't gotten it framed yet, but that's all that she sold you? Can you please stop aiming that at me? Are you telling the truth? Yes! Well, shit. We untie David Mandrel, and Ricky convinces him it's better if he just forgets this little burglary ever happened. I don't trust it, but the idea of Ricky coming back someday clearly scares the shit out of him. He even apologized to Hal as we're leaving. You know how Charles Dickens got famous? On the back of a cartoonist. Robert Seymour was so popular that his publisher wanted to put out a monthly magazine of his drawings. They just needed a hack writer to take his art and add some words. Hell, Dickens wasn't even their first choice. But what does he do? He takes over the whole enterprise. Starts making Seymour draw what he wants him to, giving him tons of notes. The usual writer bullshit. It was the man's dream gig, and suddenly it's a nightmare. Seymour blew his own brains out before he even finished the second issue. And Dickens went on to fame and fortune and immortality. Hal was drinking away his disappointment, so of course it was time for the Dickens speech. I'd heard it before. Pretty soon, he'd get to Jack Cole, and poor Joe Shuster, and maybe even Archie Lewis. Comics casualties. A long line that he must have been certain he'd be joining. Like he felt its gravity pulling him in. Hey, maybe we should close the tab here. What? Why? I gotta get you back to your hotel if you're gonna change before the ceremony. Nah, I don't know about that thing. No, Hal, you're not skipping the award show. Mindy will kill me, seriously. Come on, kid, what does it matter, really? An award for spending my entire life bent over a drawing table? With nothing to show for it, just like every other guy they screwed. You know what Wally Wood said? Here we go. He said that if he had to do it all over again, he'd cut off his own goddamn hands. I don't know, man. I never watched that stupid cartoon you made, but I always dug your comics. Even my dad liked those issues of Zangar you drew. You know I wrote the story for those too, but Marv changed all the dialogue and fucked it up. And you're still pissed about it 20 years later, obviously. Obviously you care, Hal. Just go accept the award. I'm not getting up there and playing nice so the publishers can feel good about themselves. Like this racket ain't a racket. So then don't, man. Go up there and shit all over them. Hell, I'd even go watch that. It'd be amazing. Wait, would I have to put on a suit? Yeah. If you're gonna sit at my table, you do. To Ricky's credit, he did convince the old bastard to actually go to the event he'd been flown out here for. But remember what I said before about not throwing fuel on a drunken maniac? And Hal kept drinking right through the ceremony, of course, while I just felt this creeping sense of doom. All these old friends stopping over to say hi had no idea what they were in for, that they were about to become part of the legend of Hal Crane. Great to see you, Hal. Thanks, Will. By the time Mindy comes in to get him for his award, my nerves are so bad that I'm drinking the hard stuff too. And Ricky's just amused by all of it. Keeps leaning over to ask me who people are when they win. Then, right before they call him up to the stage, I see Hal and his old boss, Frank Harmony, talking. And they look like two old pals burying the hatchet. Hal lets Frank pat him on the shoulder a few times. They even shake hands. But when Frank gets up to introduce him, to say that he's a genius, that he was nearly without peer, is not enough. Hal just glares. No, the man we honor tonight is one of the best to ever put pen to board. And I know what's coming next is going to be real ugly. So, please help me welcome a true grandmaster of the art form, Hal Crane. But maybe the applause surprises him, or the standing ovation. Because whatever he was planning to say, whatever dirt he was going to bring up, he doesn't. Instead, he clears his throat and gives the acceptance speech everyone in the room really wanted to hear. He talks about growing up reading the funnies, dreaming of a life in 4-color newsprint. He talks about how lucky he was to be mentored by so many great artists, and how much luckier still that he'd got to spend 50 years doing the thing he loved most in the world. I almost can't believe it. And even Ricky Lawless seems touched. But then, as the crowd is applauding him again, Hal turns around and breaks Frank Harmony's jaw. Crack! Ricky's laughter is the only thing I can hear above the chaos that follows, as the whole room goes nuts trying to get to the stage. And somehow, stupidly, I manage to put myself between Hal and Frank's security man, who has a taser. So, good speech, I guess. Thanks. What happened? It looked like you and Frank were mending fences. We were. He offered me 50 grand as a bonus for that new Princess Yaz show. That's great, isn't it? Pfft, a bonus. What a prick. Hey, did you really quit drawing? You were good. You should stick with it. I thought you said comics was dying. Comics have been dying since 1954, kid. Don't let that stop you. This, right here, was my favorite moment of the weekend. And I probably should have just left it at that. Just stop talking. But I had to ask the question. So, what were those pages you were looking for? Some stuff I drew back when I was working for Archie Lewis. Don't worry about it. It's just a mistake I made. One of many, right? But I wanted to keep this one to myself. It's hard to explain. I just had to be sure. Yeah. Okay. Sunday. See, someone once referred to Hal Crane as a master without a masterpiece. But that wasn't actually true. There was a masterpiece. It's just that only a handful of people have ever seen it. And only on Hal's most drunken, self-pitying nights. That's when he got confessional. When he told you his secrets. Like the real story of Archie Lewis's death. I can still hear his voice crackling with emotion as he brought these pages out to show me. Hal had only been inking backgrounds on Star King for a month or two when the syndicate approached him. Archie was demanding a raise and a piece of ownership, so they figured it was time to put the old man out to pasture. And they wanted Hal to take over the strip, if they liked his samples. So for the next month, Hal worked his day job, then stayed up late into the night putting together 8 weeks of dailies and Sundays. He knew he should have hated himself for what he was doing to Archie, but he didn't. In fact, he'd never been happier in his life. Even the writing came easy, as if Max King and Princess Lila themselves were telling him what happened next. He told himself maybe Archie would be happy it was someone like him who took over, someone who really knew and loved the strip, who could do it justice. If he could just show Archie his pages, maybe he wouldn't see them as betrayal. But Hal knew that wasn't true, and when someone at the agency tipped off Archie, he took Hal for a ride and drove straight into a wall. Hal doesn't remember telling me all this, which makes me wonder how many times he's gone searching for his missing art. But that night he cried out about poor old Archie Lewis, and he begged me to take these pages away and throw them on a fire. These strips were the best thing he'd ever drawn, and he couldn't bring himself to destroy them, even though they had destroyed him. And I got it. I understood every part of what he did, including his shame. So I promised Hal I would burn his masterpiece for him. And maybe someday I will. Maybe. Dum, dum, dum. Wow, that was an interesting twisting turn of events. Didn't see that coming. Very nice. You know what I love about this? This is the same thing that he did for Pulp with me, where the reveal is happening and it almost is like happening in slow motion and your brain is putting it together before it actually happens. You're like, he's got the pages. you're like, and then he shows it to you and you're like, yep.
And I love how the text is there and it's the same font, you know, the Star King, but instead of Archie Lewis's name down there, it's Hal Crane.
Yeah, this was neat. Look, it says the Archie Lewis car crash in the 50s, which Hal survived, is inspired loosely by the death of Alex Raymond. Back in the early 90s, I had a friend who had once shared studio space with Stan Drake. Okay, so there's a bunch of text here. I'm not going to read it, but it's obviously got some references. He explains some stuff. I really like that. This is a cool illustration here. I really like Sean Phillips' painted art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know it's like too intensive to do like a full book, you know, like go back to this, like this. But that would be amazing
Mhm.
if you could, just like once, you know, like remember when Alex Ross did Marvels? You're like, Alex
Oh
Ross did an
yeah.
interior book once. You're like, yeah, he painted a whole. Oh man.
Yeah,
Looks just
those
so.
are all the covers.
Look at
He
this
does the
color. There's
covers
a
for
color
those.
of money cover.
Oh yeah.
What is this? I must have this. I love Color of Money.
It's a good one.
Wait, is that
Yep.
an actual? Is this just an alternate cover, or did he like do an
That's the cover for
adaptation?
that's the cover for. Oh, you're talking about the Color of Money one?
Yeah. What is this?
I think that's just the adaptation that writer Kim Morgan does. And at the at the back of just about every criminal issue, they had her do a story, and then Sean would do like 2 illustrations for it. I didn't read them all,
Oh,
but
are they just in the
yeah,
physical
they were
issue,
cool.
not the Comixology?
No, if you get the Comixology ones, because this is a Comixology one, so they're in the back of those too.
No, it's not.
But wait, the one that you're looking at, right?
Yeah, it's got this, and then it's
Mhm.
just more text. Oh, or is it? Is it
Yeah,
just a,
that's
it's prose?
that's the Kim Morgan story.
Oh, it's prose. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
with illustrations. I see.
yeah. It's only 2 for every story that Kim Morgan did.
Okay, I was looking
Mhm.
for comics. I was like,
Oh, I got you.
and I was like, oh, okay, it's prose. Okay, that's still pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then
Wow,
the other one that you saw, that's the cover for issue number 4.
okay, interesting. And so now I can see how this kind of catches over. So it ends that, but then Ricky Lawless continues. So like the story kind of goes
Mhm.
away into a different direction, but still following. Yeah, I don't know how to put it into words, but I can see now because I was like, this is really weird that there's this 2 issues like right, but it's almost like Criminal is like a world and things are happening almost like the way like Twilight Zone was, kind of like where it was just, well, maybe not like
Yeah.
Twilight Zone, but where it's like the camera goes in and it's like, and it follows like a little bird or something. It's like these characters, and it's like, okay, that's this story, and now it's like one of the other characters in that story. It you know, as the other character stories end, the third character that was theirs, it now follows him away as he has a further story. I'm not
Correct.
saying this right. I'm stumbling over it, but I think you
No, that's
understand
it.
what I'm
Criminal
saying.
is the world. Yeah.
That's very
Yep.
interesting. I like that.
Mhm.
It's kind of like actually like Pulp Fiction, right? Like it was a bunch of vignettes,
Mhm.
right? You'd had like Bruce Willis's story. You had you know, the Vincent Vega and, you know, the two hitmen, their story, and it would kind
Yeah,
of bounce
Jules and
around.
Vince.
You know,
Mhm.
this is kind of something similar to that. Um,
Yeah.
Wow, that was really good. Really good. Let me check into the chat. Hopefully, you guys that are in here got to hear all of that. Hopefully, I did it justice for you so that you got to enjoy it at, you know, appropriate level it deserves. Let me transition off there. Where's my chat screen? Chat screen, where are you? There. I forgot to pop it out. Excuse me while I whip this out.
Indeed.
Brownie points if you get where that reference from.
Ooh.
Let's see.
Escaping me.
I was hoping you would know because I forgot. Let's see. Let's scroll up a little bit, not too far. Eric Breen says Ash is liquored up. I only got 2 drinks in me. I got a beer and some Maker's Mark, and I'm sipping on some tequila still. So I have 3 drinks in me by the end, and that's going to do it because I'm going to regret this tomorrow. But I am stretching it over 2 hours. So let's see. Marani says, damn, that is good. Sort of reminds me of Bimbos of the Death Sun. That is an amazing title. I just want to read it for that title. With its spot-on take of science fiction conventions. Dude, you can tell. I mean, I guess it's not... it's kind of a no-brainer because comic pros all come to San Diego Comic-Con. But it was really kind of cool to see some of the viewpoints that, to me, are just common. Like, when you walk out of the convention center, like, what it looks like across the street. Like, I was like... It's like, well, obviously, I think Ed lives in San Diego, I'm guessing. Or at least in Southern California.
Yeah.
That was just being a San Diegan. That just kind of neat to me. Let's see. There has been one volume of Criminal I'd like to pick up that grabbed my attention, says Tehillim. Oh, which volume was that? RDV says, going back to reading comics later. Why are you going back to reading comics? I was reading comics to you. Oh, RDV is just insatiable. Scroll down. RDV says, read The Walking Dead, and you all should voice different characters. Who are you talking to, RDV? Let's see. Jimmy says, Ash, when you read the second issue, it literally is wrapped up so perfectly. Oh, I read that before. It's better than Pulp. Dragon Match, he says, Harlan Ellison is a great writer. Didn't know he was a jerk. I think that's kind of a reputation a lot of great writers have. I mentioned that movie earlier, Knives Out, which you should see. Everyone should see if you like good movies. Knives Out's a fantastic. It's a murder mystery whodunit in the vein of Clue, and I normally do not like that genre, but it's so well written, and the main character is an author, and he's a real fucking asshole. And it's just, I think that's a trope because probably a lot of them are. Man, I really scrolled up too high because I'm seeing stuff I read before. Skip says, the death of Captain Marvel is my favorite comic of all time, #1. Now, he means the death of the real Captain Marvel by Jim Starlin, for any of you who maybe weren't sure what he meant. Let's see. I love Rick Jones. What he said, all the heroes in it actually were like, why didn't we do something before? Right? This book is a gut punch after another. Excellent writing and art, says Marania. Yeah. Now you see, Marania, I don't know if you were there when I did Pulp. Or we did. No, we didn't do Pulp. We just talked about Pulp. I didn't read Pulp. Maybe Pulp. Maybe I should read Pulp.
That'd be a good one.
Because I do have Pulp on Comixology. I could read it. Oh yeah. We gotta get to that. Talk about the different here. Skip says, that damn book just pierces me every time, and I have a little dream story plotted that pays homage to that book in a major way. Only thing I ever wanted to do at Marvel. I'm assuming you were talking still about Captain Marvel at that point.
Yeah. The idea, the Marvel story idea that I have, that's like the only thing I want to do over there. It pays homage to that Death of Captain Marvel book very much.
Nice. I need to, I've never read The Death of Captain Marvel. I need to.
It was actually in Marvel's first graphic novel that they released too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. See, I read God Loves Man Kills. Which was the 5th, and that kind of turned me off the graphic novels.
Okay.
Not because it was bad. I'm not saying that was bad, but I think I read it too young because I was like a little 13, 14-year-old kid, and I was like, you X-Men, yay! And then I read that, and I was like, this is boring. You know what I'm saying? I need to go back and read it today with an adult mindset. It was probably way too sophisticated for me. I just wanted more like fight the Sentinels, type stuff. So I think that turned me. So I stayed away from. I was like, whatever. Graphic novels are for I was like, the kind of the way some people steer away from like Oscar bait movies. They just want the summer blockbusters, and then they see some like highbrow, snooty Oscar film, that you just know. You're like, oh god, that's how I looked at the graphic novels. I was like, oh, this is the artsy stuff, And it was just, just one of my many prejudices I had as a kid. But now that I'm older and realize that I was just a dumb kid, I should probably go revisit that. What else? See. That's exactly what it is like, Ash, says Nalo. Nalo, by the way, welcome. I haven't seen you around in a while, so it's good to see you. I'm not sure what he was referring to, what that's like.
When you were talking, I saw when he typed it, and it was when you were talking about how criminal is like the world.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I'm interpreting it right.
Yeah.
I'm not always sure that I am. Nalo says he's been listening, checking in. It's always good to see you, Nalo. Definitely would love to do another collaboration with you. I had a really good time the time we did the Ash Wednesday live video with Nalo. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully you've been able to catch awesome. Skip and I's indie comic show about Decorum, because he's a Decorum fan. So yeah, get together with us behind the scenes, Nalo. We gotta talk. Let's see. Skip says I gotta catch up. Reckless and Decorum are my Saturday morning plans. Yeah, I got a lot of reading to do because I gotta still read the next East of West, which I usually read it Monday, the day of the show, so it's really fresh in my memory because my memory is just so bad. I feel like if I read it right away, then 2 weeks would go by and I didn't end up having to read it again.
Right.
But I'm really looking forward to that. I got to read Decorum, and of course I picked up Reckless. So I'm gonna do that, and we're gonna do a Reckless video, right? Skip.
We are.
I don't know, Nalo. You sound like you're a Brubaker guy too, Nalo. Are you reading Reckless? Let us know.
He already read it.
He already read it?
Yeah. Read it the first night.
All right then.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do. Maybe we. Yeah. We'll get on the Discord with us and talk. We need to talk about this stuff. Let's see. Please. Jimmy says Death of Captain Marvel is so great, and it's great for a newbie to him. Oh, that's cool. I'm definitely a newbie to Captain Marvel because when I got into comics, he was already dead, I think. And it was just like, oh, there's this guy called Captain Marvel. Oh, okay. He's dead. Oh, okay. Moving on. I just never knew anything, and I didn't know who Jim Starlin was at that point either. So I didn't know back then I didn't know who the great writers and things. I pretty much only knew Chris Claremont because he was writing my favorite comic. And that was it. I didn't really start to get knowing names until... Well, let's see. No, that's not true. I got to learn who Walt Simonson was because I got turned on to Thor, and then I knew who Frank Miller was when I got turned on to Daredevil. So right. I only knew a couple names, though. Everyone else was just, based on the character. Let's see. Skip says, okay, sweet. I've read it on stream 3 times now, and I'll read it another 333. I'm assuming more Captain Marvel.
See.
Yeah, I need to read it so that I can go watch your stream. No offense, but sometimes when there's something that you really want to get... This is what happened with the East of West, because you were like, I'm going to read the East of West, Ash, you should listen. And I was like, no, I can't. I got to read it on my own terms because, you know what I'm saying? I like to just get in my chair, get the no sound, or... I'll put music on. This is what we're going to talk about later, but I'll put certain music on and I just no distractions and I just immerse myself.
Yeah.
And it's for certain ones that I just know that I feel like Captain Marvel needs that special is going to be one of those books that I just want to have that solo kind of reaction and let it hit me. You'll be on the next one, says Skip. Whatever. You're having this whole side conversation. I wasn't even following. Everyone's kind of mad. There's a bunch. I guess we need to do a Captain Marvel stream sometime. A lot of people want to talk about that. Nalo does seem interested in a Reckless vid, so yeah, hit us up on the Discord. We got to talk. It's probably not appropriate to talk about it here. Skip says Spectrum is dope. Was an awesome Captain Marvel 2. Very natural. Folks, we're at the end of chat. We have read 2 books. It is after midnight. We've had a long stream. I've had a lot of fun. Skip, you have been a champion being on this late with me. I did not expect it, but I am extremely happy that you were here.
Hey, man, I was happy to be here.
Thank you so much for showing that support. I'm not sure how many more of these I'll do, but I did 100, and that's feels like something.
Yeah.
This is a ton of fun. Do you have anything you'd like to say? I just want to throw the mic at you, man, because I've been just blabbing away.
No, man. No, I mean you were doing your thing. 100th episode. Super happy for you. Proud of you as well. Man, keep it up. It's so entertaining. I always enjoy being in the chat. Definitely give that Death of Captain Marvel that treatment. It is worth it. Thank you everybody else who's always here. So many people here, you know, Lord and Nalo, Quirks, LK, gosh, yeah, Maranya, Melissa, Tehillim. I mean, I'm gonna for Dragon Master. Like, there's so many people, and you guys always make it fun every night. It's something that I look forward to. Sometimes I stay up and I'm on it way longer than I'm supposed to be, but it's hard not to just be in that place, in that space where you're just like, nothing else matters. The world could be burning right now. I'm right here. This feels great. So, oh man, I appreciate it, and yeah, just keep it up.
Awesome. One final thing before I go. I don't know if RDV is still listening, or he's wrapped up in comics, or what he's doing. He's a strange one, but he was also a very generous person that I just want to give a shout out to. Let me see here. He was very kind and donated this. Oops, I gotta hit the transition button. He donated this to the channel, the Marvel Masterworks Amazing Spider-Man, and I'm very thankful. And so I'm going to be reading this coming up soon. Skip, as I mentioned before, was generous to donate The Criminal, which I had a blast. I could not think of a better book to wrap up the 100 like that. It just worked out really perfect. We're going to be reading some classic Spider-Man coming up on the next. We'll be back Tuesday. I'm going to probably change the format a little bit, but previously I've been doing like a mixture of comic books, but it's very difficult trying to sync them in and be like, okay, this one's going to run for 3 issues, this one runs for 5 issues, and then it gets all weird. I think what I'm going to try to experiment with going forward is just picking a singular book and maybe just read 2 issues of it. Or if we have time and it goes fast, maybe a third. You know, I won't have to worry about trying to sync up and do stuff, because I can just go and do whatever works. Or if it's like a double-sized issue, I can just read 1 issue, you know. Because that was another thing that was a problem. If I read 2 different comics and both of them happened to be oversized, it'd be like, whoa, that was a long video. I think this will allow me to do more interesting things, like potentially just read Pulp one night, because that's like about 3 comics worth of story. Mm-hmm. I think the size of it. I think it's like 70 pages. So, anyways, that's what I plan on doing. I'm going to be reading some Amazing Spider-Man. Hopefully you come enjoy. I might do some other changes because I've been listening to your guys' feedback. Skip, man, it's been awesome. Hang out after the stream ends. I want to talk to you for a sec. Nalo, please hit us up on the Discord and or Twitter. And I want to talk to you about some stuff. Let's see. Anyone else? Any final things in chat? Just Lord making fun of me. Stab Ash and leave him bleeding. Man, I must have done something to Lord in the past life. I'll tell you what. But thanks so much, guys. Your support is awesome. I hope I give you some entertainment, something to fall asleep to. And as always, read good comics. And I hope to see you this coming Monday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time for the unnamed indie comic show, and then return for story times late night, 10 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Good night, all.